committee meeting a
Correct.
few weeks ago. Since that time, hopefully you received one last week. I'll kind of detail, those changes were pretty significant, went back and forth quite a bit in terms of those proposed changes. Since last week, I think the only changes that have been made, and I hope I'm going to get them all, but we did put some language in the term of contract, the very first provision, to make it very clear that in the event that the board decides to go through a director search and names a permanent director, that Dr. Battle would receive 30 days notice, and after that 30 days notice, there would be no additional compensation due. So that was one of the changes to make that very clear. The other changes were under Section 8, membership dues. There was a request by Dr. Battle to, originally last week it had said that the board would pay for no more than 3 civic organizations. The request was to make that no more than 2 civic organizations and then 1 program of executive coaching. So that has been changed since last week. And I'm missing something else, but now I can't.
Added the vacation.
Added the encouragement by the board. The board does encourage her to use her vacation time. So that sentence has been added under Section 11, under leave. And then the final request was, yeah, you'll have one, Dr. Battle had one other. Oh, yeah, under Section 23D, there's language at the very end of that basically allows, if the board does the director search and Dr. Battle is not the permanent director, that she would be returned to her prior position or equivalent position, unless she is terminated for cause. And those were I believe, the only real changes since the agreement that was sent via email last week.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about anything contained in, any of the additional changes that have just been highlighted?
I've got several questions. I'll just go in order. Okay, number 5, the automobile entitlement. TSBA, when they responded to that, I don't really understand what the IRS laws and regulations are, but is this language what Ben Torres recommended in his email to us? I think he was looking for clarification about
I don't remember him providing a specific provision that he thought was, I will say that this is the same automobile entitlement provision that we've had in the various previous contracts. I can't remember if it came specifically from TSBA or not. My understanding of what Ben Torres put in his comment was that he just wanted to make sure that the board was aware that this does include the ability by the director to ask for some additional tax reimbursement, and he wanted to make sure that the board was at least understood that there could be some follow-up on that. I will say that obviously it's in here. I did ask MNPS to let me know kind of what has happened previously with other directors, because it's the same language. And it was reported to me that no prior directors have asked for additional tax reimbursement. Back when Dr. Register was here, they did help him kind of draft a document that could help him determine what his taxable income related to this use of the automobile was, but he never asked for reimbursement for those taxes. So again, as from my understanding, from what I have been told, is that no prior directors have actually asked for this tax reimbursement, but from Ben Torres, I think he just wanted to make sure the board was aware that this does allow the director to ask to be reimbursed from those additional taxes.
I guess I don't even understand what
How could it possibly be?
Yeah, I guess it's just,
So
for job use, you would get some sort of.
Yeah, so because I am not a tax attorney.
I know, and this is what I
And so
don't know what
part of this
is.
would be IRS, but my understanding is that by having an automobile, there can be an additional, it's viewed as additional compensation. And so when Dr. Battle or anybody is filing their taxes, they might have to say that they've received some additional compensation through the use of this automobile. And again, how they calculate that, I don't know enough about how that works, but that they might be paying some additional taxes. I think it's fairly minimal, but again, IRS controls.
Okay. On the leave section, number 11, same question. Is this what TSBA recommended for the language? I was a little bit confused about that, too.
So, again, this was kind of a mix from, well, a lot of the stuff about the 15 days of accrued vacation leave, that came from prior contracts. I'll just tell you, in talking to Sharon and knowing what the discussion was at the committee meeting, we were trying to find some way to try to help make sure that we're encouraging vacation time, but also, we can't require a director to take all the vacation time, and certainly not putting some kind of limitation on just carrying forward forever vacation, but also having her take the vacation. I believe Ben Torres, I don't think he offered anything specific to this other than to suggest, in prior contracts, we just had that you'd get 25 total days, and he suggested breaking it up into 2 days of vacation for each month. So I believe that was Ben's recommendation, and that has been included.
And I guess there's probably no standard language about, because we had talked about, this sort of debate we had about whether, we can't force her to take vacation days. I guess there's no standard language to use there, that she will still be able to cash it out, but
Yeah.
we're just trying to put a limitation on it.
It's really however the board wants to set it up, in an agreement
Yeah.
with Dr. Battle. Again, this was, Sharon and I had talked about, this was kind of the language that we used before, and trying to find something that we thought matched what I understood from the last committee meeting.
Okay.
This was what we came up with.
Okay, number 17, the evaluation, it says that we shall evaluate her at the end of the year, and we have 2 evaluations a year. Should we insert language about, in accordance with the,
Yeah, I put that at the very bottom, the last sentence in that paragraph, such process shall be in compliance with the then current director evaluation policy. That was certainly what was desired to, or intended to make sure that we follow our policy.
okay, but at a minimum, we're saying at least 1. I think that's
Yeah,
fine. Okay.
yeah.
19, consulting work. I am concerned because I think this is a full-time job, and I just tell the board, I'm concerned about any director undertaking consulting work while being involved as a director. Speaking engagements, writing, or those issues may be fine, but just raising that concern.
And that's certainly something the board can discuss.
Yeah, and then one last question.
It's in
I'm
section
sorry.
19,
Yeah, it's
the second
allowing-
sentence.
Yeah,
The director may, however, undertake consulting work, speaking engagements. I think Ms. Frog is suggesting we eliminate the consulting work, such as speaking engagements and other activities.
it's a hard job, so. And then the last question, so I'm not, I'll make sure I'm understanding, and I don't know if I was understanding what you just said about so we can terminate the contract under the first section with 30 days' notice. But that also works in conjunction with section, what is this, D123D? Yeah, so if it is without cause, which in that case would be without cause? No, those are totally
No,
separate
so
provisions.
again, the subsection 1 is specific to the term. So basically, the term of the contract would end after that 30 days notice if you go through the director search and name a director. So the term of the contract is over. Obviously, once the term is over, there would be no additional compensation. If you terminate it kind of midstream, it's not the actual end of the contract, but you terminate it without cause in the middle of the contract, then these provisions apply in terms of providing some kind of compensation to replace or, to allow for that termination. At the end of that subsection
Oh, I'm seeing now. I'm
D23D,
sorry. Yeah.
the subsection does not apply in the event that
Got
the
it.
board executes the director search and names a
Okay.
permanent director
Makes
in
sense.
accordance with 1.
Ms. Berger, you making a motion about
Yeah, I would like to make,
consulting work?
I would like to make a motion just to remove the words consulting work from 19.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to eliminate the consulting work from section 19. Any other discussion around it? Any other questions? Any additional clarification?
So therefore, it would only say, the director may, however, undertake speaking engagements, writing, lecturing, and other activities? Okay, so it would remove specifically consulting work.
Is that correct, Ms. Rowe? Yes. Any other questions, any other additional clarification?
I'm
So-
sorry, and then there's
Oh.
another, I'm sorry, there's another sentence. The director may not serve as a consultant without prior approval of the board chair, so that whole sentence would be removed if we take out consulting work.
So removing both of those then. The
full
reference to
sentence.
consulting work in the second sentence, and then the second to the last sentence that reads, "The director may not serve as a consultant without the prior approval of the board chair." That becomes a moot statement if we take out consulting work.
So I'll just say I am anxious to go ahead and pass a contract, so this isn't a hill I'm going to die over, but I think with us having evaluations, I would just believe that this homegrown educator is professional enough to decide for herself if she has the capacity to undertake any other work. So I'm going to vote against it, but again, it's not that serious to me, but those are my thoughts.
Any other comments, questions? All right, so the motion on the floor is to remove the reference to consulting work in the second sentence, and the second to the last sentence that references getting approval from the board to do said consulting work. All in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 4. 2 yes. Motion passes. So we will eliminate consulting work and then that other sentence. Anything else, Ms. Rowe?
I don't think so.
Anyone else have any other questions?
I have a question
Sure, Ms. Barron.
on number 5, automobile. It's not specifically, I just want to understand the intent here. The automobile entitlement is certainly to get back and forth to work and certainly to go about the school business. Is there any concern that, and I'm not talking about that Dr. Battle would abuse this, but in terms of interpretation, I know some companies will allow the automobile use that the person can go on vacation and gas will be paid for. That's not, have we ever had an issue with that? Can this be misinterpreted that way?
I certainly think that's something the board can discuss. This is the same language that's been in prior contracts. My there is a board, like an MNPS board policy specific to the entitlement or use of automobiles for all employees, which says that it should be for work purposes. Again, though, with this language, you're right. I don't know that it's crystal clear whether or not the board is wanting her to only use this for work purposes.
Yes.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Chuck was just before me. The use of the automobile for your personal reasons is what makes it taxable if you're using it for personal. So all the stuff about IRS, that's when that comes in, is because it's related to the personal use of the vehicle. That would be your additional compensation.
So are we condoning use of the automobile entitlement for personal use?
I think based on the language here, it can be interpreted that this allows her to use this vehicle for something more than just work purposes.
You know, I mean, my personal belief is that if you're going to run to the grocery store, that's not a big deal. But if you're going to go on vacation, that is a big deal. So that's what I don't know exactly what we would need to do to specify this more clearly, maybe in accordance with board policy, maybe a statement or a phrase, use this according to board policy, MNPS board policy might take care of it.
Yeah, that's certainly something the board can discuss if they want to add that, some kind of qualifying language that we're wanting this to be for work purposes. Shepherd?
So it's the responsibility of the employee to, where the tax implications come in, it's the employee's responsibility to keep up with personal and business mileage for tax purposes. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
All right. That's what I thought.
And any maintenance outside of the lease agreement is also the employee's responsibility. That wasn't a question. I mean, it just is. I mean, that's how it works. The district is simply paying the lease for the vehicle for the director's use. I don't know that we've ever had anybody monitoring whether a director was driving further than the grocery store to Gatlinburg or what. So, and we've not had any, and again, I just asked the questions. I don't know what problem we're trying to solve or what we're trying to avoid. We have not had any past instances of abuse under the lease agreements with previous directors. So, and I don't know what we would put in, and I don't know how does this deviate from board policy? Because when we talk about use for vehicles, those are a different fleet of vehicles. Those are not leased to an individual. Those are fleet vehicles. Right?
That is correct. Yeah, the board policy is
Oh,
specific
different.
to.
The board policy applies to our fleet, to the fleet of vehicles that the district owns. This is a vehicle that's outside of that fleet that is specifically for the director's use. It is part of the perks or one of the additional compensations. So I'm just clarifying. I think we can make whatever adjustment we need to make.
For one more, just making sure that you all have all the information. This is the same automobile entitlement language that is currently found in all the different chief contracts. Obviously, our new interim director will be entering into different chief contracts as she deems fit. But I wanted you to know this is the same language that we've used in various contracts within MNPS for those higher level positions.
My feeling is that we, as a board, have not sat down and looked at a contract to this degree since I've been on the board. And I know with terminating Dr. Joseph's contract or buying his contract out, there was a lot in there that I didn't take personal responsibility. We were rushed to go ahead and hire Dr. Joseph when we did, and I just want to do the right thing. If it is the will of this board that I'm not talking about Dr. Battle, but because we've done it years and years and years in the past, so we just keep doing it years and years in the future, I'm not asking that we monitor it. I'm just saying, what's the will of the board? Is it okay with the, some companies say, yes, go ahead and take vacation, drive to Florida, we'll pay the gas. Is that okay with this board? If that is, we need to make that clear. If it isn't, we need to make that clear. I personally would rather see it used for business. We have teachers that are underpaid, and anyway, I won't get into all that, but I would just like to hear if anyone else has a thought about this.
I think my only thought is that not so much that we've used it so much in the past, but if we've allowed every other male director, we've given them the professional courtesy of being appropriate and using things appropriately. I would like to offer, again, this homegrown first African-American female director the same professional courtesy.
And I don't know, so here's the other things to keep in mind is we can always come back and add an amendment. So I would say that if we have some concerns, we need to do some research about what has happened in the past. I don't believe that there's been, in addition, on top of paying for the lease of a car, I would not expect, and nor would I be in favor of somebody submitting me a bill for gas or mileage. That's why, because I compensate as a company, we compensate for mileage to help you deal with the damage to your personal vehicle for corporate business. I'm already giving you the car.
So I don't think we've ever had that in the past, and that's not what the expectation is here, that we would compensate for gas or we would compensate for mileage if they're in this vehicle that I'm already paying for. That, you don't get more than
If
that.
they're in
It's
Nashville,
just the car.
Tennessee? And if they're in Nashville, Tennessee?
I don't care where they go. You don't get anything additional.
Okay,
All
okay.
right, and the lease agreement comes with a maintenance package. If you have a wreck, your personal insurance covers that. We don't cover it. Now all that's not part of this. Yeah.
I will say the fuel, I did ask for prior directors and kind of, really I was looking for, have we ever had problems with prior directors and what they're submitting for? To my understanding, again, what was reported to me is we've never seen some astronomical bill for gas reimbursement that we've had to follow up on. Directors have submitted reimbursement for gas. Also, what often happens is, I don't know who it is, our fleet maintenance crew will sometimes just come around and fill up gas tanks of the vehicles that are being used by our, the employees that have the vehicles on the property. So, I mean, I've never heard of a concern. Nobody has expressed a concern to me related to a finding of some kind of misuse of the vehicle, but I did want to make it clear that we have received reimbursement requests for gas in the past from our directors, and we have allowed those, and that we do sometimes will fill them up with gas if they're on their property. Our maintenance crew will come do that for them. Just And of course, I mean, Chuck was just reminding me wanting to point out, this, as part of her job as the director of schools, she will travel outside of Nashville. I mean, I believe they were just together in a conference in Lebanon, Tennessee, just the other day, and I can't remember which conference that was, but they were there together, so she is going to be traveling outside of Nashville.
So I don't have any heartburn over anything in item number 5, but I will say that it's not unusual for companies who do provide a vehicle for work to allow their employees to use it for personal use, and then that's where the tax implications come in. So, I mean, I've seen that. I think that's more the case than not.
So is there a motion associated with this, or are you okay with it as it is? And remember, we can always, we do some more research, we can always come back and make an amendment to that particular clause after we get more information. Okay, this doesn't lock us down. Anything else? Any other sections? Any other questions? If there are not any additional concerns, I will entertain a motion to approve the contract with the changes that have already been submitted.
I'd like to, okay, I'll second it.
Okay, we got a move and a second. All in favor of approval of the contract with the said changes? A show of hands. Everybody says yay. No opposed. Thank you very much. Approved. Meeting adjourned. We'll talk about it now.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.